friends, and we are back yet again. And today we're looking at this. The Koryu Sentai Zyuranger Memorial Edition Dino Buckler, or the new Premium Bandai Power Morpher, if you're nasty. So, for those that don't know, for whatever reason, the Memorial Edition is, of course, Bandai's Super Sentai answer to the Complete Selection modification from Kamen Rider, where they upsize to the proper size and add in a lot of the screen-accurate details and add in the sounds and voice clips and whatnot. And this year, they kind of went hard and heavy on a lot of changers. There's a lot of changers that are coming out. Maybe because they were doing their best to try to save the line. For those that don't know, Super Sentai has officially, temporarily at least, come to an end in Japan. So here we have this. Now, of course, this isn't Japan's first attempt at doing a collectible Dino Buckler. When they first did the Super Sentai Artisan, they released a version of the Dino Buckler, which was, in fact, this. The Bandai America Legacy Morpher, just done with chrome, having the proper details, some of the Japanese sounds and music added, as well as coming with the Dino Crystal, which had the T-Rex on it, the crystal that they would extend out to pilot the Zords, if you will. Now, so far in the Memorial line, every time that they've done a release that has had a previous Artisan Collection version, they've re-released the Artisan Collection version just with updated functionality. That is not what they've done here. This is a one-to-one with the original toy of what we know as the Power Morpher. Again, there is some things that have been changed, some functionality added, but this is, at least on the front and parts of it, are the original toy, just repainted and redone. The coins are not. They are, at least they have the original sculpt on the front, but they are different, and this is different, which, of course, here in America, we didn't get this piece. But let's talk more about that later. Let's just go into the packaging. So as you can see here, we have Geki, the Zyuranger, right there in the front. Yeah, that's right. I'm using the Japanese name, Sumi. Where it says Memorial Edition. It's very hard to see, but there is the Tyranno medal right there, sort of faded into the background. On the bottom and on the top of the box, you get the combined coin for the Dino Tanker and Daijujin. Memorial Edition here on the sides. Again, the top is the same as the bottom. On the back of the box, you have all your legalese and all that good stuff. You also have your QR code to go to the instructions. Like they've been doing with many of these things, there are no actual instructions included, no documentation, no pamphlets, no nothing. You have to scan the QR code to get all of that. So out of the box, this is what you get. You get, of course, your 5 medals. You get your belt piece right here and the actual Dino Buckle itself. So taking a good look here at the details. Again, it should be pretty familiar. It's the Morpher the way we remember it, but it is now done in that show-accurate matte silver, and it is a very gorgeous silver. As the Koryu Sentai down here, Zyuranger up here. Of course, you got your button here on the side, sculpted to look like the same button on the other side. We have a very shiny gold chrome stickers all over the back of this, as well as our color bar stickers right here. We now have an on-off switch down here, which has a off position in the middle, then a mode 1 and a mode 2 position, as well as a new button sculpted right here. This entire back piece right here is a separate plate. You can sort of see the gap right there. It is held in place with 2 screws. You do have to unscrew this and take this entire back piece off in order to get to where the battery goes in. It just takes one AAA battery. As you can see, I do kind of have some curling where the stickers are meeting the edges right here. So not perfectly cleanly applied. These are pre-applied. You don't apply any stickers. I'll pop this open here. You can see the inside should look fairly similar as well. This does have entirely new lights on the inside, as well as this whole centerpiece is completely different from the original toy. So looking at the coins, you can see here, the sculpting is the same as the vintage power coins, at least on the top, but they do have a nice gold paint with a nice wash to bring out the line work. Unfortunately, that only extends to the very front. Once you flip it around, you get that sort of plain goldish colored plastic with the little pegs in a circle right here with a center peg right there in the middle. And so if you remember on the vintage toy, had little tabs here, you would slot it in and turn it. Here, in order to replicate how it fits on the show, these just clip in and hold in very, very well, I should point out. Something even the Legacy Morpher couldn't do very well due to the weight. So it uses those pegs to sort of help center it and line it up in place and hold it in position. But otherwise, it's just clipping on with these really tiny, very hard to see little nubs right here, clipping around the clear red plastic here in the middle. Now we're looking at the Mammoth, not Mastodon, Moth medal for our Moth Ranger, Goshi. Our Trikera medal for Dan, our Trikera Ranger. We have our Tiger medal for Boy. And our Terra medal for May. And then here is our belt piece. Now again, we did not get this piece on the vintage toy. We did get this with the Legacy Morpher. It is my understanding, I never had the original Japanese one, so I can't really verify that, but I have been told that this part of the belt is different, that they've sculpted this to be thicker, bigger, more solid clips to more solidly clip onto a belt. I'm going to assume that's correct because, again, I don't really know. So, just for a quick comparison, here it is with the Legacy Morpher, and here it is with the Hasbro Master Morpher, which does use the same mold as the regular Hasbro Morpher. As you can see, because this is based off of the original toy, it is much, much smaller than these are. And that's kind of an issue for me. I kind of think that them shrinking it down to be the same size as the original toy doesn't work very well in my mind. Granted, like this one's way too big. This one's definitely way too big. This one, though, is one-to-one with the actual handheld prop from the show. And that's very important to note, the handheld prop, because there were 3 different versions of the Morpher, obviously, in the show. So you had the handheld prop, then you had the 2 different costume props, the one where it was when they're transformed, and then the one when they weren't transformed. So this might actually be more accurate to the worn costume pieces than the actual handheld one is. But, you know, it is what it is. I kind of wish it was the size of the Legacy Morpher and was not, you know, the size of the vintage toy, because, you know, I have big, fatty meat hands. That makes it very hard for me to do all the do. And then also the fact that all of this back here is just a sticker, not even a tampograph, not sculpted like what we did before. That kind of bothers me a little bit. It does. But we'll move on. We'll move on. So, as I said, you have an on-off switch down here. You have mode 1 and mode 2. They're picked out if you can kind of see them. There's 1 dot here and 2 dots here. So, and you get a very familiar sounding sound if you've ever watched, you know, the actual Japanese show. Now, what they've done here, that just clips in. And now they've added a sound effect when you pull the handle down to begin your transformation sequence. So you get that click and the sound of them pulling it out of the Morpher. Now in this form, before you do any transformations, you have some options here. So pressing this button is going to cycle through your 5 Rangers. So you're currently in mode 1. In mode 1, you're not going to get any specific Ranger sounds. But if you press this button once, you get that ding ding sound, and that's now moving into your Tyranno Ranger. Again, Moth Ranger, Trachera Ranger, Tiger Ranger, Terra Ranger, and you're back into mode 1. So let's do this all proper like. So we'll go ahead and put in our Tyranno coin. Now the coins themselves, the medals, they don't do anything. They don't make any sound effects. They don't specify any sound effects. Everything's based off of this button and your movements, because this does have a motion sensor in there. Granted, the motion sensor only starts the sound effects, and you're expected to sort of move to keep in time with the sound effects. But the way this now works, Dino Buckler! Pull that out, and now you have a split second before it will actually register any motion. So you can't just go right into it, because again, if you look at how they did the transformation in the show, they don't go right into it. But now it's got motion sensor activated, so get it to work. And you heard that swish, swish, and click, and now it's in standby mode, and it'll cut off of standby mode if you don't do anything for a few seconds. And if you could see, there was a little bit of light peeking through, so it is glowing. The lights are on while it's in standby mode. If you close it, then you can go back into the whole sequence. Now, much like on the vintage toy, if you press in the button just ever so slightly, it doesn't activate the sound. You have to press in all the way. So we'll use that to take a look at the lights when it's in standby mode. You can see how we have lights going this way now. Whereas, on the vintage toy and even on the Legacy Morpher, you just had the dots here. Now you got 2 dots going here, but those aren't the only lights. So if we press, and if you could see, you get a little bit of lights going around the edge of the coin now. So lights to light up where the thing opens and the little teeth are, and then lights around the coin. Now there's 2 versions of this sound effect. So there's the quick press and the long press. And there you have that. Now to turn off your transformation, to go back to standby, you just need to open and close the handle twice. You'll get that sound, and you're back into standby. You can only switch Rangers when you're in standby mode. Very important to note that. Oh, when you switch Rangers, now we're in Tyranno mode, everything's going to be the same, except you'll get a short version of the transformation, and then you'll get a roar from the associated dinosaur. I say associated dinosaur. The fact is about 3 of them sound like they're the same roar, but yeah, it is what it is. Here's our mammoth. Our Triceratops. Our saber-toothed tiger. And our Pteranodon. That's right, I said Pteranodon, not pterodactyl, because that's what this is actually supposed to be. And so, yeah, that's it for the individual Ranger sounds. There's no voice clips, no other dialogue or anything, just that. Now, regardless of whether you're in a Ranger mode or if you are in the mode 1 with, the no dedicated Ranger modes, pressing this button now will get you specific sound effects. So we'll actually open this up so you can see, because one of the sound effects has the lights. So your first button press is them pulling the coin out and pulling out the crystal. Your second sound effect is them activating the crystal to pilot the Zords. And then the next sound effect is the Dino tanker coming together. And lastly is the whole Dino tanker standing up to become Daijujin, or Megazord sequence has been initiated. And there you have it. And that's all there is for mode 1, except for the music. So the music can be used in either mode 1 or mode 2. And that you're just going to press and hold the button. There's only 2 songs in here. One is the Zyuranger theme song, and one is one of the battle songs, specifically the battle song that played the first time that Geki is revealed as the Red Ranger when he comes to save the other Rangers, which plays into mode 2. And we'll talk about that when we get into mode 2. But just so you can sort of hear, we're not going to do much of this due to copyright BS. Zyuranger theme song. Press and hold to turn it off. And battle music. So as I said, we have a mode 2, and mode 2, you'll get that sound effect when you go into that. You'll get that sound effect when you pull it out, and then nothing else on this will work. So none of the other sound effects will work. This will do nothing outside of playing the music if you press and hold down. All that's in here now is a motion sensor. So you can do that. Again, if you've never seen Zyuranger, when Geki first is about to henshin, he pulls out his buckler, and instead of henshining, he beats golems in the face with them. That being the putties, he's literally just boom, boom, with it. And that's all mode 2 does. That's it. That's all there is to mode 2. So yeah, there's no voice clips. There's no setting the music to automatically play when you do your transformation. You do get the motion sounds for the transformation, so you can cosplay the transformation a little bit better. But yeah, that's it. That's all this does. So that's kind of a letdown, if I'm being honest. So the Memorial Editions have had all of what I just mentioned, voice clips. About the only one that I have so far that doesn't have a lot of voice clips is going to be the Zyuranger Go Phone, as it only has the Red Rangers sounds in it. It doesn't have any of the other Ranger sounds in it. I always figured at some point they may be releasing the other engine souls to have the other Rangers, but they've never done that. Now, of course, that could be a whole licensing thing, having to get the rights to use the voice clips from the actors. It could also be the fact that Zyuranger wasn't an overly popular show in Japan when it came out. It has a bigger following now, mostly due to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So maybe they just didn't put as much effort into this as they have in other things. Oh, I guess since we have them here, we might as well show off. Put this back into mode 2 here. Mode 1. So just to compare, like I do like the better sound effects when it opens, because if you have this, that's the whole extent of its lights and sounds, unless you press and hold to get the Mighty Morphin, compared to that. Now, granted, this thing right here has probably the best lights and sounds when it comes down to it.
1993, it's Morphin time.
Although it does, become a lightsaber for some reason. But hey, yeah. So yeah, I mean, if this was released just as a regular toy, I would say this was amazing. It's much better than the original toy is. Obviously, it does more than the original toy. It's a lot of fun to handle, a lot of fun to play with, even with my big, meaty meat hands not being able to actually get a grip on it. As far as show accuracy, obviously, on our side of the pond, they used the toy in the show as opposed to, the actual original prop. But this doesn't cost as much as a just nice toy would cost. This is packaged and sold as a memorial edition, which is meant to be more of the prop replicas, as well as, add the functionality of the toys. And for that makes this really feel like kind of a letdown, especially because of the cost of this. This is actually more than some of the other memorial editions, and it does less. So for me, that makes it not kind of not worth the money. I think if you have your Legacy Morpher and you're happy with that, or if you were lucky enough to get one of the the artisan versions of this, which are ridiculously expensive on the aftermarket now, then I think you're good. You don't need this. If you don't have any other Morpher of any kind, for the cost, maybe get one of the Hasbro ones. I mean, I know Playmates has one out now, but for the cost, the Hasbro one would probably be good if you can't get this. And this also is pretty expensive on the secondary market. But for me, it's just not worth the money as is. Well, that's going to be it for me, guys. Y'all have a good one.